Yeah. Yes.
Give me, I'm sorry, I apologize. Give me a moment. I just want to bring up the agenda and everything on my other screen. Okay. I'll call the meeting to order and we're seating Don for Rich.
Yes.
Okay. Any changes to the agenda, Paula?
None.
Additions? Okay. The minutes of the meeting of August 22nd, 2022. Any corrections, changes? I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented. I need a second.
I'll second.
Justin, I'll second.
Thanks, Justin's got that. All those in favor, aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
I'm abstaining.
We have two
Okay.
people abstaining.
I am also abstaining.
Okay, Bob and Vera are abstaining.
I was not in attendance at the meeting.
Thank you.
I was absent.
And Don, are you voting?
Yes, I voted.
Okay.
voted.
Okay, next up, audience of citizens. Anything anyone would like to bring up to us? Okay, nothing under unfinished business. Then under new business, we have item 7.1. Carol Briggs and others, zoning amendment application to repeal section 52.7.5, event wedding venue facilities and parts of sections 9, 21.2.3 and 62.5. Schedule a public hearing for November 14th, 2022. I don't think we need to make a motion. That's just done by statute, correct, Paula?
It's our choice, but we don't
Okay.
normally need to make a
Everyone
motion.
on board? Well, let me make a motion just so it's clean. I'll make a motion that we schedule the public hearing on that for 7 PM, November 14th, 2022. That will likely be a hybrid meeting format,
Yes.
just so the public knows they can either attend in person. We'll have an in-person meeting, but also we'll be able to coordinate with Zoom, facilitate people who want to attend via Zoom.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That's unanimous. Okay.
For the record, Rich is attending now.
Okay. Rich, so then Don, you will be seated for Walter Tabor.
Okay.
From this point forward. That said, the regulation revisions, we really are not at a point to talk about subdivision regulations at this point. Probably the most productive thing is we'll get through the rest of the agenda. Paula, is there anything else? We'll go through the agenda one point at a time.
Well,
Anything you want to bring up under subdivision revisions?
I'd like to schedule a subcommittee meeting for next week, either the Monday or Thursday.
Okay, that would be Justin, myself, anyone else,
Me,
Paula, and anyone else from the commission?
just the two of you are on the subcommittee.
Yep. I was just wondering if anyone else had interest. What day would be good for you, Paula?
Either Monday or Thursday, 11 to 4.
Monday, yep.
Justin, what's good for
Monday,
you?
I'll be gone. I'll be
Okay.
gone Monday. It'll be kind of tough. If Thursday we can do that, that'd be better.
So Thursday, the 6th, I'm sorry, yeah, Thursday, the 6th.
Yes, that works for me.
Okay, Justin, what's the best time for the two of you? I'm wide open.
Let me look real quick. Either mid to late morning or early afternoon would be better for me.
You can
I'm
pick.
pretty wide open though.
Why don't we do it mid to
Can
late
we do-
morning then, like 11 AM?
Yeah, that works perfect.
Okay,
Paula?
yes, that's fine. We'll probably meet up in the conference room.
Okay.
Excuse me, Rick, what was the date of that public hearing?
The 14th of November.
14th is a Wednesday, I believe. The 12th is I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong month. You're right. Sorry.
You scared
Yep.
me there.
Yeah, I make those mistakes, but Joshua or Paula never do.
Well,
Yeah.
we,
All right, my bad. Never mind.
we're perfectly capable of making a mistake.
Yeah, Bob's getting old like some of us.
I was looking at December, trying to move things along.
I've done that too.
We all do
Okay.
it.
That said, communications and reports, anything, Paula?
Nothing.
Commission open discussion. Justin had asked me about my follow-up with Connie with regard to coming up with a structure for zoning enforcement. And I have not followed up with her. I will be following up after this meeting, hopefully have something for the next meeting. I had asked her to come out with a general framework that would be, very transparent and shared with the public. What's her approach to enforcement issues? And to that end, I think having a structure to it that everyone understands that can at least be aimed at would be helpful. And I was asking her to come up with what she thought was appropriate, and then I would come back to all of you, say, what do you think of this? And we can have a discussion. And then I
Okay.
will push her to get an updated enforcement report. But I think the key here is that enforcement, we feel, needs to be very consistent so that people know what to expect. Everyone feel the same way, different perspectives?
I think there's at least I have a sentiment about approving or not approving certain things that are submitted for planning and zoning approval, because I'm wary about zoning enforcement issues. So that if I think there's a potential for a zoning enforcement issue on a particular application, I may vote against that because I don't think we can enforce it. So I think it's really important to get on top of this whole thing. I mean, this has been going on for as long as I can remember. I've been on the board for 6 or 7 years. It's always been an issue. So we seem to just, I don't know, it just seems to be a can that gets kicked down the road and nothing ever gets resolved. So, some kind of a time frame, I think, Rick, would be really important. Set some kind of a deadline for a submission of a plan that we can review. It just doesn't seem to happen. It's not on everyone's top 10 list, obviously.
When you say it doesn't happen, you're talking about the structure for enforcement that I've asked.
Well,
from
the
Connie.
responses don't happen. We ask for a report. We don't get reports, for 6 months. It's just the whole thing is a boondoggle. It really is. It's just it's very, very frustrating, and it starts to affect the way I look at applications, because I know we can't enforce zoning. I don't feel we can enforce zoning effectively, so I tend to vote not to accept things because they may be potential zoning enforcement issues.
I think that blends well into an overall discussion. So, Rick, first of all, I appreciate that. I think we need to have that structure. And one of the rabbit holes that I've been going down, actually today, I spent a bunch of time on just trying to continue to get a better handle on the regulations themselves, but stumbling upon the ordinances in town. There's 130 pages of ordinances on the town website, some of which very clearly state how zoning enforcement is actually structural documents around zoning enforcement, which I'm always open to admitting what I don't know, and I did not know that, and didn't know that those were there, and was actually very, very surprised by it. So I think from my perspective, I don't want to go down this road saying enforcement. I think the first thing is clarity and a consistency in process, so that both anyone accused of a violation knows where they stand and what the process is. That's very, very important. But also for the
Agreed.
interests of the town to make sure that if if there is a valid interest in enforcing a zoning regulation, that is done in an equitable and considerable manner, in a considerate manner. The
And
other thing though
consistent.
too is inconsistent. And listen, consistency is the key. You cannot let one person do something and then, the other person is treated differently. And that's the danger that occurs if we don't have a consistency in process. I think that the process is key. It's really important. But beyond that, and I think that's the first step. I'm not trying to get beyond the scope of what we're talking about. But when I read through some of the enforcement documents in the ordinances today, I was troubled, to say the least, at some of the power that the zoning enforcement officer actually has and some of the fines that can be levied. So I think it really needs to be just a broader discussion, which is kind of a theme for me in general, about where do we go with all of these regulations, these hundreds and hundreds of pages of regulations, and the zoning enforcement that can possibly take place, but maybe isn't or shouldn't. So I think we just have to have that as part of a larger discussion as we move forward, over the next months.
Let me share with you some of what I said to Connie the last time I spoke with her about this. I said, we're looking for an understanding of your methodology. When you're, clearly, I think we're all of the ilk that if somebody's going to make a zoning complaint, that they need to do it in writing, and there should be a record of it. For somebody to get on the phone and talk to Connie and rattle off a list of, a lot of things that she needs to look into, I think that needs to be documented. And we should discuss it and be of one voice on that, so that there's no lack of unity or clarity from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that would be something that I hope we do in the near future. But separate from that, understanding what our process is, when there's an apparent zoning violation, that there's a courteous letter that is sent, and if possible, a phone call saying, we're aware of something, we'd like to clear it up, and then have a staged way of approaching it, so that people feel that they're approached in a kind way, in a soft way, to resolve something without the assumption that there's anything intended by the members of our public, that they intended to do anything and that they're doing something wrong in a we don't want people approached in a punitive way until it gets way down the road. That some connection or attempt at connection in a benign way would be the first step. So I asked her to document. I said there should be a progression, couple attempts at benign. If that doesn't work, a certified letter, and if that doesn't work, then depending on the severity, make a decision. Justin, just so you know, when we were looking at trying to enforce some very serious zoning violations in the past, it became apparent that we couldn't enforce our regulations whatsoever on our own, because the only power to fine comes from the Board of Selectmen and a town ordinance. So that had to be developed in unison with our zoning regulations. And the ability to collect those is another discussion for another night, but that's kind of where we are. So let me get back with a suggested framework of for the guidelines for enforcement, what we do at what times, and then it's going to be a document that I bring back to the commission and we'll discuss, because ultimately the process is something that we should be the result of action from us. Any other thoughts from anybody? Anyone else want to weigh in?
Good.
I'm sorry, Vera, you were going to say?
I said, it sounds good.
Yep.
Let's do it.
One other concern I have that I'll be discussing with Connie has to do with site plan reviews and not site plan reviews, but zoning permit review when there's new construction. And I want to be very candid and transparent. This has affected people I know personally and somebody that I do business with, but there doesn't seem to be enough consistency with when surveys are required or when there's notice. There seems to be too often, we had somebody that was building way far away from a road, but they wanted an as-built elevation survey done. every time an engineer visits, it's no longer $400 or $500. It's $900 to get them to visit the site and do something up. And when all of these requirements aren't put forth early in the process, what's proposed to be required, and then you're waiting for a CEO, and it's like, well, you're not going to get it unless you do this. It's like, well, could you have brought it up earlier? And so I don't want to make this out to be that there's anything that's not been done correctly at the town level, but there is wide discretion as to whether or not these are required by our zoning agent. And maybe we should review what's required and what isn't, and under what circumstances. Because, if we're trying to make housing affordable, but we're layering on one professional requirement after another, and it's hard to know what you have to do when you're planning a project, I'd like us to have a discussion about that. So that's something that will come up on in the future, and I will have a conversation with Connie about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, we can keep asking for $1,000 items, and you layer up enough of them, and all of a sudden houses go from unaffordable to completely unaffordable. And I think it's our job to make the process of if you want to build a home in town, make it reasonably, if not easy, predictable, the process predictable. And obviously we want to be fair, and we want to help people.
At the time of the final inspection, in order to get a CO, there really shouldn't be any surprises. There should be a list of items that are required by the town. The person should know about those things ahead of time. There should not be any surprises. Now, whether
Well,
those things are appropriate or not, that's a whole nother discussion. But there
It
should
is.
be a list of things that applicants should know that have to be submitted prior to the issuance of a CO.
That's all listed
That's true.
when
I'm sorry.
when a permit is approved for a new house, it comes with a long list of this has to be done before you can do this. This has to be steps. So everyone does receive that. Reading it, we can't force people to read things, unfortunately.
Well, I don't think
Paula,
it's
what
an
about
issue
other-
of people
what about other
reading
building-
them. I'm sorry, go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to ask Paula, what about other building projects? Because houses are one thing, but what if somebody's putting a building on their property? Not that it's not their house. What is that? Is the CO and the entire process spelled out correctly, or not correctly, but consistently?
I think it is. I've not seen that. I'm not involved with that, but I don't see where it's inconsistent at all. And it's variable is if you're on one of the small lots around the lake where it's very difficult to see, if you're putting in a shed, you have to be a certain distance from the property line. And around the lake, the lots are so small, it's very difficult to discern exactly if something is meeting the regs. But out in the middle of a field with somebody putting in a shed, it's just a quick look or a drawing on a map, and then that's it. It's not difficult at all.
Paula, do we require an as-built survey for a house?
To mine, and this is not my role at all, so it's just
Yep.
hearsay. I know we do acquire an as-built in terms of the foundation. I don't know what we need for anything else.
Right.
I can give an answer to that. So we require an as-built for the foundation, and the zoning agent may require an as-built for elevations based on setbacks from property boundaries. But there are all different reasons. Meaning the zoning agent may waive that, but to require an engineer to go back out and document that the stairs to the front porch that are 2 steps up were in exactly that spot, there's many times very onerous requirements that are very expensive. I encountered it, and I'm not saying unfair, just, you know, when I did the as-built survey for my foundation, the question could have said, well, I'm going to require the as-built survey for the elevations, and they could have been done at the same time. But it was another $1,000, it was another $900, and it was another $900. And there doesn't seem to be a consistency as to when and why these things are waived by the zoning agent, when it seems obvious that they might reasonably be waived. So yes, I would not agree with what Paula's statement was, that it's not, I would say it's not consistent. There's no telling what you need when you get down to the final run. And I think that should be able to be understood with certainty, well, you know, halfway into the project before those final surveys are done. And there's a lot.
You should know it before halfway through. You should know it from the very beginning. And I'll pull your file next time I'm in the office and take a look at it. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a list.
You don't need to do that. You know, those are things that I'll have a conversation with Connie about,
Okay,
and we'll try and gain some clarity as to what her perspective is on it. Okay?
okay.
And at some point, maybe we can have her with us here, but that's another topic. So are we all set on this, on open discussion items? There are, next up would be audience of citizens. Anything anyone would like to bring up to us? There's nothing that we need to go into executive session about, so I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Who is that, Vera?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, is that unanimous?
God, there must be a best basketball game on or something.
Hey, Rick, I got a question.
Yes.
I sat
That was
here
approved, by
waiting.
the way.
So we're,
Or-
excuse me, let me stop recording. We're no
Yeah,
longer in
please.
session, correct?
Correct.